So welcome to the studio, everybody. This is again Michael Bones for another Theory Thursday. I had a special question from one of the members of our online theory group. Thank you for your question. Can someone explain borrowed chords to me? Well, after glibly making the joke, well, I can as long as you give them back once you're done, I thought, you know what? This is something that I can actually be able to help with. And it does tie into a little bit about this circle of fifths, which I am currently working on a larger video about. This will be a great way to use that circle of fifths to help explain a little bit about music theory today. So, if you're interested about borrowed chords, what that means, how to use them, join us here today. Okay, my name is Michael Bones. I am a violinist and composer. I studied music and majored in music composition at Wilfrid Laurier University. Now there I did write music for string quartet, for violin, piano, for all sorts of different ensembles, including orchestra, and I now create my own music. If you follow me on my YouTube channel here, or on Spotify, which is the link on my profile, you will be able to find all of my original music. It's a little bit different than the classical style, but I hope you enjoy it either way. Stay tuned for more if you like that, or if you like more of my fun videos like this, stay tuned as well, because it's all found here in one spot. Okay, cool. So anyways, all that YouTube things that they want you to do out of the way, let's get into it here today. So what I thought I would do is, I'm going to just show you here quickly our circle of fifths, just as a reminder, in case you've forgotten. Okay, so the circle of fifths, if you remember, is actually just a way of describing the different keys and how they're related to each other. Now, in our other videos, we're going to get much, much deeper, because music is beautiful and intricate in its structure and complexities. However, we don't need to be a genius to get started. So, anybody can delve in and you can grow as you learn. Now, starting here today, I want to show you here how we use the circle of fifths to first find what we call our diatonic chords. And these would mean the chords that are not borrowed, which would mean that they're the chords of the key signature. Now, how many chords do we have in our key signature? Let's take a look first here at our scale. I always recommend my students practice their scales and arpeggios because they are the foundation, the building blocks of music. Okay, when you know these, your fingers move automatically, instinctually in these patterns which are found throughout music. So, taking a look here at our scale, remember here we have how many scale notes? Well, technically 8, but the last one and the first one are the same note. So that means we actually only have 7 total notes in our scale. Now, if we build a triad being a chord built out of 1, 2, 3, 3 notes, well, then we actually have 7 chords. And if we take a look here at the circle of fifths, you can see here by using the key that we're in and the adjoining major and relative minors, we get 6 out of the 7 chords of the key. Now the special one here is the diminished chord, the 7th degree. Now with this chord, keep in mind that it's a little bit different, a little bit spicy. So if you're a new composer, I would actually recommend not using this until you learn a little bit more about it, because it has certain, kind of like the dominant chord, notes that need to resolve certain ways. Now we will talk about it briefly here, but just know that going ahead. Okay, so going forward, the beginner scales and arpeggios cover usually 1 octave scales, arpeggios covering the 1, 4, and 6 chords. Now why these chords? Well, they're the chords that are most related to the tonic. What is the tonic? Well, the tonic is the note that's our bottom note, the first and last note of our scale, and this is what we call the home of our scale. Tonic mean you can relate to home. Home, tonic, tonic, home. Okay. Next most important would be the dominant. That's what they call it, dominant, because it's very, very important. It exerts itself. This would be the 5th of the scale. Now, if you take a look at the chord of the 5th and the chord of the 1st, you'll notice something here, that they actually have only 1 note in common, the 5th. So the other 2 chord notes have a kind of tension against the home chord, tonic chord. That is what creates kind of what we call a cadence. And this is what quilts we call resolution, from kind of tense feeling to a relaxed feeling. Okay? This is again Michael Bones in the studio. Thank you for joining me. If you do like music intricacies about theory and different ways we can manipulate sound, as well as unique original looping music with violin as a feature, definitely subscribe. My name is Michael Bones. I write original music. A bit about me, violinist. I went to school and actually studied both Bachelor of Music as well as majoring in composition, which means not only did I play violin in orchestras, string quartets, solo, things like this, I also wrote music for those type of mediums. String quartets, violin and piano, cello and piano, different types of ensembles, quartets, trios, and full orchestra. So I do also know a lot about how to write for full orchestra and different type of instrumentations. So if that's something you're interested in, do type it in the comments, your questions. I'd be happy to answer those questions too, because that's quite interesting, but quite niche. Alright, so for today though, this will help if you're any type of a musician, whether you write music or you want to understand better the music you play. So what's a diatonic chord? What's a borrowed chord? Well, a diatonic, borrowed, these are the opposite of each other. Borrowed means not found using the scale notes, and diatonic means we can build them using strictly the scale notes. Okay, that's why they're the opposite terms. Diatonic. Weird word. Dia means related to tonic. Tonic means base note of our scale, the root note of our scale. So if we say A major, A is our tonic. If we say C major, C is our tonic. Okay, does that make sense? Moving on. So I'd like to show you quickly here our circle of fifths, in case you forgot. Now one thing you're going to notice here is on the circle of fifths, we have two circles, because we have both major and minor keys. And you may or may not be aware, but each scale has different modes. So using the same 7 notes, depending on which note we start and end with, which is we call our tonic, we actually end up with different scales. This would be, for example, the modes like Dorian, Mixolydian, Locrian. We'll go through that a little bit later. So Aeolian would be actually the natural minor, and Ionian would be the major. So those are the two that we're going to be using here for our circle of fifths. Let's C major as our example, just to keep it really simple and straightforward, but this works no matter where we turn our circle. If we zoom in here on our circle of fifths, you're going to find here our scale degrees are spelled out here by relating the major and minor keys and the sides both on the 4th and the 5th side of our scale. So C, F, G is our major, minor side. We have A, D, and E. Okay, this leaves one note out of our scale that's not found here. Do you know what that is? That's right, it is B. So, what is B? That is the 7th note of our scale. This we would call the leading tone. Quickly, why don't we do this 2 lessons in one? I'll teach you as well about what we call each degree of the scale. Each note of the scale has a different kind of function when it comes to harmony and chords when we use them as the base of creating triads. Remember again, triads are chords built by making 1, 2, 3 notes stacked in thirds, using that note as the root or base note of the stack. Okay, so if we stack thirds on top of our first note of our scale, that's a tonic note, we get a tonic triad. If we stack on the second note, we call the supertonic. It's right above the tonic, so it's super. Okay, so supertonic, then we have our third note, which is our median. Why is it called median? Because it's midway between our tonic and our dominant, the 2 most important scale degrees in our scale. Next we have our subdominant, because it's just below sub, like a sub-basement is just below the basement. Sub-dominant, just below our dominant, 4th degree. 5th degree, we've already talked about many times, dominant. Okay, after dominant we have our sub-mediant. Okay, so this is again the note that's going to be below our median. So median is 3, and if we invert or reflect our scale backwards, 3 becomes 6, so that would be the sub-median. Okay, same thing if we invert 4 and 5 become the same. Inversions is a whole other thing we'll talk about in another lesson. Once I have the video up, it'll be linked below. And then the leading tone, which we talked about. Now each of these, we call in functional harmony, they actually have a function, they have a duty. So for example, the leading tone, it has to, what we call resolve. It has a strong pull, just like gravity, towards the tonic. It wants to go up to the tonic. Similarly, different other notes have certain gravities, however, that is the most important gravity. The second most important gravity, Fi, likes to go to 1. It's from what we call the dominant to tonic cadence. That's what we call perfect cadence when we go from 5 to 1. There's different other types of cadence, such as plagal, deceptive, but we'll get into those in other videos. Today we're talking about borrowed chords. What's a borrowed chord? That's when we use any other chord other than these chords that we were talking about. So if we zoom out here into our circle of fifths, and we include here a special diminished circle in the middle, to include our 7th, we can see here the 7 chords of our native scale. Any of these other chords, anything you can think of that uses any note that is not found in these scales, in this major scale, for this example, or the native scale, whichever is your scale you start with, is a borrowed chord. It's as simple as that. Now, borrowed chords have special, again, if we're using functional harmony, special ways we need to treat them. Special ways that sometimes we need to arrive or navigate our way towards them as well. Now there's certain different styles of music where you can actually just borrow any chord and slam right into it and go from any native chord to any non-native chord. As long as you resolve it properly, it'll work out fine for you. This is what I call the Chopin or the slam method of chord progressions. But there's also other methods like Coltrane jazz or Bach, Beethoven stepwise progressions through different keys through the circle of fifths, which is quite exciting. I spoke already a little bit here about our diminished chords and augmented chords and how they actually create special shapes across our circle of fifths. If you're interested, do check out that video where I have a little bit of an explanation, followed by a little bit of a jam, so exploring the sounds and different qualities we can pull out of the augmented chords. Alright, so hopefully that helps too. Hopefully that helps explain what is a borrowed chord. Simply put, it's just any chord that's not found in our native scale. How you use them, however, that is the tricky part. So for more information about that, do stay tuned. I'm going to have more information about the circle of fifths, songwriting, composing. If you do have any specific questions though that you'd like to have answered, do leave them down below. I'd be happy to help out. My name is Michael Bones. I am a musician and I have been trained in composition. So I can write for orchestra. I know different types and styles of music, including 12-tone, postmodern, classical, romantic, different types of styles of music. So we can use all of these here as they treat different notes in different ways, in different styles. Same thing when we do different cultures. I do teach, and a lot of my students are multicultural. So for example, I have also taught songs that are Asian or Southeast Asian in origin as well. And although they sometimes use different scales than us, different techniques than us, music is a language on its own, and it's just a different kind of accent on that language. Hopefully this has helped. Again, my name is Michael Bones, violinist, composer, musician. Follow me for more. Until next time, stay cool, my babies. I'm going to share with you a quick tip here today about how to use borrowed chords. You can see here, if we take a look here at our diatonic chords, we have 3 major and we have 3 minor chords, as well as a diminished chord. Remember what I said here about diminished chords, that they're kind of a bit funky, a bit weird, you don't want to use that. Well, what if we instead change that diminished chord to function more as a dominant chord, as a major chord? Well, how would we do that? Well, we have to raise the second and third note of the triad. So that would be the third and fifth of the triad. So both of those notes will be raised. That would be the second and fourth note raised of our scale. Okay, in this example, that would be D and F will both be raised. So temporarily, that adds both D sharp and F sharp, putting us at least into A major or above in terms of our key signature. Okay, so this is why it's called a borrowed chord, because it has different sharps values than our native scale. Okay, but it can resolve as any dominant to its native tonic, or deceptively to the sixth natively, or we can find a way here to resolve it to our native tonic. Okay, so there's the tonic of the borrowed chord we could resolve to, thus effectively changing our keys through a resolution in a different key. We can choose to have that be what we call a substitution. It's just another popular way of borrowing a chord. You substitute where you would normally have a diatonic chord with a different quality of chord, being a borrowed chord in that sense. Okay, so there's different ways we can use that. Hopefully that's given you some ideas about how you might want to use this in your music. For example, what if we wanted to use 1, 4, 5, but we wanted 4 to be minor? Well, then we would have to borrow a chord, because 4 in our native key would be major. Well, what if we wanted to do a deceptive cadence into a major key? Well, then we'd have to do a 6 major, so we'd have to borrow a sharp third in the 6th, which would actually be sharp 2, okay, or sharp D. So that would be similar, you'd be in the key of at least 3 sharps or higher temporarily. Hopefully that's helped. Hopefully we've given you some ideas here. Thank you again for your question. If you have more questions, or if you have any insight about this video, about what I should do differently, or anything specifically here that you want to add, please leave those comments down below. My name is Michael Bones. Again, happy to help out here. Until next time, stay cool, my babies! Ah!